Hi everyone, Rohit here, and welcome to this Witter with Woodsy. Let's get Woodsy on. So, Martin, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you, mate. Good. So, just a little Witter with Woodsy, I think, as we've called it. You a fan of that?
Oh, that's a beauty, absolute beauty.
Brilliant. So, I've just got your straight up. We'll just go through your career quickly. Obviously, teams you've been at, because it's quite a CV, isn't it? Were you at Celtic's youth team? Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, I started at Celtic when I was really young, mate. Yeah.
Yeah. How was that like? Because are you a Celtic fan?
I am a Celtic fan, and it was really good. What age was I when I joined Celtic? 11.
Yeah.
That was kind of the first age group you could go in back then. So I went to Celtic from 11 to under 14s, and it got to the point where I was deciding where I was going to be signing, if it was going to be kind of with Celtic or Scotland. But Celtic would make you sign something called an S form, which meant you couldn't play with Scotland, and you couldn't. The only times our teams were going to see you was if you were playing against Celtic. So you couldn't go down to England, couldn't go to England, you couldn't do anything. So came to the point where, although I'm a Celtic fan, I had to make the decision that for kind of what I wanted to do with going to England, I had to end up leaving. And they still expected me to sign when I was still kind of coming around to the decision. Like maybe when I was 15, they still expected me to sign. So it was a bit of a strange one, really. So it ended up, but I had a great kind of relationship with my head teacher. And we went and had a discussion with him and with my family, and he said, anytime you want to go down to England on trial or go down to any places to have a look, then by all means you can go, so you can take time off school. I think they basically had worked out, mate, at that stage at school wasn't my bag, so they kind of gave me their full blessing, and went from there. And I started kind of doing a wee tour of England, picking up tracksuits and free football boots. It was all right. It was all right for a while, and then ended up making the decision to join Leeds when I was kind of 15. Moved down on my 16th birthday, so that's how kind of all started.
Yeah, and obviously when you were at sorry, quick ahead of that. When you were at Leeds, you lived in, was it like a little hostel or just sort of accommodation? What was that like at your age? You know, moving over, obviously south of the border to and staying with other lads your age, or were they your age?
Yeah,
they were a bit older, weren't they?
They were older, mate. Yeah. So I'd moved down. I was cause in Scotland I could leave school at Christmas time. My birthday fell down. That I was moving down to Leeds with the group that had already been there for 6 months, and my age group would then join up with us in the summer when they left school. So it was a bit Leeds. The reason why I signed there was because I got the best kind of vibe off the lads. Like, I like Yorkshire. I love the people around Yorkshire. I think they're very similar to Scottish, where they just get in the mix and it's good crack, and no kind of big time shouts, or because I'd went to a few clubs that went down to Tottenham and kind of spoke to like Arsenal and went to Man U, and I just didn't get a good. I'm not saying every day was like this, but the feel for the place, it just wasn't the same as I got for Leeds. So joining Leeds, I joined them for a reason, because everybody was in it together, and it was a good kind of mixture with the boys. That it was kind of seamless moving down, that I was right in there with boys that I could get on well with, but that didn't mean I wasn't the whipping boy, mate, because I was the youngest. I was I seemed to be the brunt of the joke for about 6 months till the next group came in. So it was good. It was good crack, to be fair, and it was all kind of done in a way that it's kind of it makes you grow up fast, you know, and it stops you from thinking about being back home, because there's so many lads in a hostel staying together on the training ground that there must have been 20 odd boys in this place, so you don't get time to think about missing people, because you're right in the mix of the boys, and there's no time to feel sorry for yourself, and you couldn't lock yourself in a room anyway, because somebody just batter the door down and that'd be you. So it was good in that sense. There was no thinking time to feel sorry for yourself and missing home. So it made me grow up pretty quick, and it was definitely really good.
Yeah, great stuff, Martin. And around that period of time, did you get that sort of feeling in your head that being a pro footballer was something you wanted to pursue, and maybe it was something that you were going to obviously achieve eventually?
Definitely, it's all I wanted to do, mate. I mean,
Yeah.
my mum and dad kept letters for me when I was a really young, and it was all about playing football. I mean, anything I had to do for like English lessons and stuff, it was all, the thing I was writing about was playing football, and like it's just, they've got a couple of cringy letters, which is good looking back at, but that was always my dream of, I wanted to be a footballer, and I was so focused on it that that's all I wanted to do. So it was kind of my main aim in life. So that's how it started, really.
Yeah, brilliant. It's funny you say that as well, because I've got something wrote down here from the Q&A you did on Media Day that went in the match programme. And one of the questions was, if you wasn't a footballer, what would you be? And you said builder.
Oh,
do you remember that?
I don't know why I've come out with that. I've been the worst builder ever. I've been the worst builder in Europe, mate. I don't know where that's popped into my head. I must have panicked, but I don't, honestly, that's how far it is off my head if I wasn't a footballer.
So it was always wanting to be, always wanting to be a footballer. Brilliant.
Only thing I was thinking about. So a builder, no, if you knew me now, you would go, absolutely no chance. That's definitely, it was only a footballer, and I have no idea what I'd get into if I wasn't a footballer. So thank God I ended up managing to make it. So
How did your sort of youth seasons go when you were at Leeds? Obviously, on the sort of playing side. How were those few seasons? And were it like a scholarship kind of thing? Did you say?
Yeah, I'd signed. I could do a year scholar, and then I'd already kind of signed. Back then, I'd already signed a professional thing when I was like 15. So your contract's kind of set up where you do certain scholarships. So mine was from I was 16 till 17, and then I went on to then a 2-year kind of pro thing. No, I loved it. I loved Leeds. It was a great experience, to be fair. There was some great people at the club, some great coaches, some pretty well-known coaches as well that you would have heard of now. But there was, I mean, the head of the youth was Brian Kidd, who's at Man City now. He was the head of the youth. There was Andy Ritchie, that was at Oldham. He was like kind of academy director or something. Then you had Warren Joyce, who's was at Man U for years as reserve manager. He was our 17s manager. Brian Pop Robson was the 19s manager. You had some great. And then reserves. When you went to reserves, it was Roy Aitken, who was at Celtic before. So he was one of my dad's heroes. So having him, then there was Eddie Gray, who was Scottish as well. So that's what I mean. They all kind of made you feel like it was part of your family, and it was a great setup, and it was a great start really, until kind of the club went through some real difficulties with finances, and ends up, it was the biggest change around at a club. From when I started, it was Champions League days where there was some crazy names, to then when I was leaving, the manager, and it was a total different feel at the club, and it was some hard times they were going through then. So it was a big change around.
Yeah, and obviously in that first season, you broke into the first team. Leeds got relegated, didn't they? And did you feel like, I don't think you made an appearance in that first season, do you feel like the reason you didn't make an appearance was because of the struggles that were going on? And, most managers don't really want to throw youth in, do they? And do you feel like that might have stopped you sort of getting more involvement than you probably wanted in that first season?
Well, when Leeds got relegated for the Premier League, mate, I was only a baby really. I was a kid. I didn't have a clue, and I hadn't earned any kind of games. So it was coming into the time where I think that I ended up, the season they get relegated, I ended up making an appearance against Sunderland, which it was under a manager who, if I'm being honest, wasn't really my cup of tea, and he wasn't many people's cups of tea. Like, if you heard about him since, Kevin Blackwell was the manager, he wasn't one for youth. He wasn't one for trusting people. I mean, I'll give you a quick example of that. I'm making my debut. I had been on loan at Hartlepool in League One for 8 games, and I was making my debut, and he turned round to the it was Eddie Boothroyd, who's the
England on the 21s. Yeah.
He was the first team coach. He says, put Woodsy on the left, and this is me getting warmed up, and I'm listening, and he says, oh, what you try to do, kill me? And I'm like, what? So five minutes later, he's pulled me over. I'm going on to make my debut, but I'm thinking in the back of my head, I've just heard what you've said.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how's your confidence there going on as an 18-year-old? It was a strange one, really.
Yeah.
But it's strange how football kind of swings round, where a few years later, when I was at Doncaster, you try to sign me at Chef U, but you try and keep these things in your head where you're like, well, no, I can remember how you treated me as a kid. So that kind of spell, I couldn't really wait to move on in the summer. I mean, there was an option of me staying at Leeds, but when Sunderland came in, who won the league that year, I couldn't wait to go. Just not because of the football club, because it's an amazing football club, Leeds, and I mean, my son supports them now down here. It's obviously alongside Halifax, because wherever I go, he gets the kits and supports them. But it just left a sour taste in my mouth, kind of how we were all treated at the end. It wasn't just me. There was a number of young boys that were there that couldn't really wait to get. I mean, Aaron Lennon being one of probably the most high-profile one, where he hardly played, and that was just ridiculous because the boy was unbelievable. So for him we were all feeling the same thing. We couldn't wait to get away for the manager at the time, really. So ended up moving on to Sunderland in that summer. Yeah,
and do you know when you were at Leeds and you didn't get that, like the youth lads didn't get that support off of Blackwell, did you get it off of any of the senior players who were at Leeds, or was it sort of?
Definitely.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, they were super. The senior boys were brilliant. They always were brilliant at Leeds. I mean, they kind of got, because you're all in under the same building. They're all great. There was some big names there when I first went. They were superb. They'd sit and talk away to you, which was obviously amazing. And then come the end up, they would pull you over and say, like, listen, like, you've got a really good chance, keep your head down. I know he's not treating you right, but whatever. That was kind of how they would word it around Blackwell. But it's just, these things happen. Sometimes managers, they just don't like to trust young boys, and it's hard to trust young boys, but I think you've got to treat them properly with respect. And he just never treated people properly, and I always like to treat people in the right way, no matter what your job is. So, but he was pretty arrogant and pretty kind of enjoyed his own, big fan of his own work, really. So it wasn't for me, really. So
do you know that sort of senior lads putting an arm around the shoulder of the younger lads? That's something you like to do, isn't it, at Halifax with, you know, sort of Keane Spence, Jay Ben, who are coming through as young lads? Is that something that you've wanted to do because that's been passed on to you from when you were in that situation?
Yeah, I think you pick wee bits up from certain people and how they made you feel. I mean, they boys, I mean, they all come in, and it's not as if we've got a hard young lad to work with. Like, they all come in, they've got great attitudes, and they work really hard. So they only like a wee bit of advice on kind of football side of things. It's not as if you need to say to any of them, you need to work harder, or your attitude's not right. Their attitudes are spot on. So I'm delighted to help MD that's kind of attitudes spot on. They want to get better. It's the difficult situations when somebody maybe gets a wee bit ahead of themselves as a young lad and starts kind of talking wrong to, I'm not saying me, older boys, they start talking disrespectfully and they start thinking they're something maybe they're not, but we don't have anything like that. So any help that any of the young boys need, I'll be there for them totally. It's I see it as part of just being a decent person, I think. I mean, if anybody comes to you with advice and wants any kind of help, then I try and go out my way to help them. So no problem whatsoever with helping them boys out.
Yeah, that's superb, mate. And we'll move on to Sunderland then. And you made 7 Premier League appearances, and we'll start just with that. How does it feel, you know, being a Premier League footballer, being someone who's played in the Premier League? Is that sort of like the pinnacle of? Is that like the pinnacle?
I couldn't label myself a Premier League footballer. I mean,
I would.
Having only played a certain amount of games.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, mate. I was too young to see the chance that I had, and I wasn't ready for it mentally. I mean,
Right.
you need to be so mentally strong, and going into probably a team that were really struggling that year, it makes it more difficult that you see things going on around you where the fans are trying to run on the pitch to you, the certain players, not to me, like older lads, and they're trying to get. It makes it quite a toxic atmosphere at the club.
Right, yeah.
So although the club was fantastic and the fans are so passionate, it makes you a bit nervous, a young lad, that you don't want to make mistakes. So that kind of takes away from your game of you just end up playing so safe and don't want to make mistakes, that you don't want to try anything that's going to get you in kind of people to look and say, oh, he's not done this or he's not done that. So you go into your shell in a wee bit, and I wasn't ready for it mentally at all at that stage. I mean, I think the mental side of the game is so important, and if young lads aren't ready for it mentally, it's a really tough career to get to. There's so many kind of ups and downs that you've got to be prepared for it all. And I wasn't. It was pretty like kind of smooth sailing in my career until I left Sunderland, where I'd go in and train and I'd work hard every day, but I was never labelled. I was only still 19. I was never labelled a first team player, of the pressures of you've got to get results, people's got families, and you've got to kind of really knuckle down and get results for it. So it came too soon for me, that opportunity, and I let it pass me by in a way. And I had a bit of bad luck at the end of the season, where I was going to get a run in the last kind of 10 games off Mick McCarthy, but I went away with Scotland 21s and I rolled my ankle and ended up missing it, and he got sacked, where I could have had a lot more games in, but these things happen. And it came to a kind of awkward situation this summer with me leaving, with the man not being a manager, not being a chairman there, that nobody was there to make the decision who was staying and who was going. So it was a great. I loved the boys. They were superb, but we weren't good enough to stay in the league as a group, and I wasn't certainly good enough to be playing at that time at that level. So these things happen. But what a set up it was, and playing in some of these games and against some of these players and some of the stadiums was an incredible opportunity. But as I said, it just came probably a bit too soon in my career, as I was a young boy, really.
Yeah, and you spoke about that sort of mentality side of things, and you were part of that. Well, I know it can be a bit different when you get relegated in a team when you were sort of a young lad, or when you might have played sort of week in, week out kind of thing. But of course, it was relegation with Leeds, relegation with Sunderland. Did that ever affect you when you was, sort of new into the senior game, and you'd sort of been at the club when Sunderland and Leeds had been relegated in their season?
No, well, as a young lad, you focus on, right, where am I getting in the first team? And at Leeds, I'd only had one kind of opportunity against Sunderland, and it's kind of your league in a way is reserves, and trying to impress at the reserves at that stage. And I was doing pretty well at the reserves. So it's kind of, you're not really part of, especially at Leeds, you're not really part of the relegation because you've took no part in the season, really. You're then thinking, right, when am I going to get... You're always trying to just push to get in a first team. So it doesn't really affect you at Leeds. At Sunderland, I was more part of it. I was on the bench most weeks. I'd only played a few games, but you're still part of it every day, the day in, day out. You see what people means to people. You see it, and it starts to mean a bit more to you. But you're still focused on kind of when you're going to get your big chance, you know what I mean? Rather than feeling the pain of kind of the results, because you're not really playing that often. So it's... Until then, I left and went to Rotherham. It wasn't really... I mean, I wasn't really part of a full-on relegation until kind of a few years later, where it's a horrible feeling. You feel it because you're playing, you're feeling the fans' pain, and you're feeling the kit women's pain, and everybody's pain about worrying about their jobs. That's when it really it really gets to you. But at that stage, you're solely focused on trying to just make it as a professional that you kind of you don't feel it as much. You know what I mean, mate? It's a strange one, really.
Yeah, definitely. And you spoke about sort of getting into the team there, and I was looking at that Sunderland team, and it's sort of just there's a lot of centre midfielders, wasn't there, that season? You just got to me obviously with Tommy Miller, Rory Delap, Dean Whitehead, Julio Arca, Grant Ledbetter, Christian Bassier. So was that something that you feel like maybe in a way stopped you from getting into the team just because there were so many centre midfielders in your position, or do you feel like it was just a learning thing? Sort of being a young lad.
Yeah. I mean, at the time, mate, if I'm being totally honest, majority of the list you've names were better than me. You've got to just put your... they were more ready. They'd played the games, they'd done their time, and they'd learned. So they were ready more than I was ready at the time. So it was me and Grant that was playing, Grant Ledbetter that was playing in the reserves together. Me and him would play really well in the reserves together, and the manager had come down and he was desperate to give us a shot, the two of us, really. But what do? Do you chuck two young lads into a struggling situation? And it's a difficult one for the manager. And the manager was top class, really honest guy. He'd pull you in and say, you're doing great. And that's why he pulled me in when he was going to offer me a new contract. He says, but I think you should go and play these games first. I'm going to give you a run of games till the end of the season, just because we were basically relegated by points because we were right down the bottom. And he said, I'm going to give you a run of games. So he was great, but he just kind of came to the end of his tether of the ones that he was playing. He felt as if were doing really well in the reserves, so we deserved a chance at that stage. So it's a hard one for him as well. You can't just chuck young lads in really a struggling situation. It was a difficult one, and I've got so much respect for Mick McCarthy. He was absolutely brilliant through it. I still speak to him every now and again now. Great guy, so honest, up front, and I think that's a big attribute you've got to have as a manager, just to be up front with your players, and just that honesty goes so far with people. So it was... I wasn't ready, if I'm being honest, mate. At the time, they boys were more ready, but it was just gutting that I didn't get the run of games at the end of the season, just due to that little kind of roll on my ankle that gave me an ankle ligament problem till the end of the season. So that's life, and you've just got to get on with it. Yeah,
definitely. And you went to Rotherham United after that, but I'll probably just skip past that because I don't want to keep you for too long. So I'll move on.
No, you're all right, mate.
I'll move on to Doncaster.
Rotherham was a good time.
Well, yeah, go on. If you want, go on, mate. How was your time at Rotherham?
Yeah, it was a great time. I mean, that was the first time, I think, it was probably the most important time in my career, where it was, now you're playing with players that need to win for win bonuses. They need to win they need new contracts at the end of the season for their families. It is providing it's proper men that aren't on absolute fortunes like I've seen at Leeds and Sunderland. It's men that really are out there working so hard to get results to kind of earn for their families, and that was the most important thing in my career. I mean, I think I missed a full league out. Got relegated with Sunderland, was going to sign a new contract there, to then not played many games, missed the full league out and go to League One. Missed the full championship out and go to a team in League One, which ends up, it was a bit of a wake up call where it's right. It's time to sink or swim time. It's step up, and then you've got to go and play the games and earn your thing. So I mean, it couldn't have been worse situation where we had a points deduction due to finances, and it was basically it was the best thing that happened to me, where it was right. This is football now, and you get your head down and graft and see what it's like to be a proper footballer and go out and earn it. And I loved my time there, and came to the end of the season where I ended up leaving, but I had a kind of number of options, but I ended up picking to go to Doncaster, and Doncaster were probably the lowest down option I had, but I had some championship teams that I'd went and met, but Doncaster was the lowest down option. They were in League One, up the top of League One, but I just loved the chairman and loved the manager, and the kind of sold me in the project that they were going to do going forward, and thankfully I think it was the right decision in the end. So went into kind of my time there.
Yeah, and it was 7 years at Doncaster, wasn't it? And the majority of those were under Sean O'Driscoll. How good was your relationship with Sean?
Yeah, great. I mean, as a man, like you're a bit of a strange cat, if I'm being honest. He wouldn't sit and talk to you and have some crack with you and a wee bit of banter, and he would literally, it would be work, and it was great. He was unbelievable on the coaching. He was great in the training ground, and he learned us so many things. But and he formed a great bunch of boys as well, and that was a big thing that I loved there. It was such a great group for years and years, and the style of football that we played was really good as well. So Sean was superb, and just lived and breathed football, and he was really good on the coaching.
Yeah, I love that. And in that first season, you got promoted, didn't you, to the Championship in the first season, was it? And how did that go? Because it was a playoff final against Leeds, and obviously I didn't see your name on the team. Did you miss that due to injury, or was you just not involved?
I missed the last few weeks due to an injury. So I mean, it was only a small. What did I miss that? It was just a small knock, mate. But I ended up. I went on the pitch though and stuff.
That's good. Yeah.
It was good, to be fair. They let me do the warm up and go on the pitch, and it was an unbelievable experience, to be fair. But I ended up missing out in that game. But the boys were great and thoroughly deserved the win, and then got us promoted to the Championship, which kind of where we all wanted to be. Yeah,
and obviously beating Leeds in that final, did you have a little bit of a smirk? Obviously remembering how sort of maybe Blackwell. No, you're not like that, are you? It's professional.
I still like Leeds as a club, but Blackwell was well gone. But then, I mean, if he was there, with different story, I'd have been running up, giving it that one in his face. But he was well gone. But then it was Gary McAllister that was the manager. I was just buzzing for I was buzzing for everybody involved. I'd seen. I mean, we'd missed out in the last day of the season. All thing we had to do was to beat Cheltenham, which we had battered that season, and we ended up losing the last day. So we ended up going to the playoffs, which the chairman, he had some strange little kind of things going on in his head where he says, I've seen it. He says, we beat Leeds in the playoff final.
Right, yeah.
And that kind of got everybody just kind of over that disappointment and focused again. It was a strange one, but he had a dream of taking Doncaster at the conference to the Championship, and nobody believed him. And then he had that dream of we were so close, and it got after that game he could have been gutted, but he says no, I've seen it. We beat Leeds in the final, and not knowing there's still the semis to be played, not knowing what team was going to get who. And it ended up working out that way. So a strange one, mate.
Crazy, isn't it?
John Ryan. That was John Ryan. He was a legend. The job he done with that club was immense.
Yeah, obviously when we spoke about you at Sunderland, we spoke about all those centre midfielders that were there, and one at centre mids at Doncaster's James Coppinger. And again in your programme Q&A, you said James was the best player you've ever played with. Obviously, he's been at Doncaster for years, hasn't he? How good was James, and how sort of special is he to Doncaster Rovers?
I mean, if you looked at my career, you would pick better footballers that I've played with that have done better than James. But James, every day, I mean, our team at Doncaster, you could pick 3 or 4 where you go that I love playing with, but they maybe not be as big names as ones that I've maybe played with elsewhere. But some of these lads were it's just kind of, do you know, when you just get a kind of rapport, is it, you know where they're going to be, and you know where you're playing it to them, and you know where everybody is. It was just a great feeling. It was like telepathic in a way, where it's just a strange feeling. It was that's why I'd say James was up there, and the longevity that he got and the attitude he had to train and be his best every day has stood him in like the best stead going forward. And he's now 40, still playing in League One and doing well. That's just a testament to kind of the environment they had there, that you train your best every day, you give your best every day, your performance level's so good, then the results will come. And that's what stood with James ever since then. And he is, that's why I'd say he's right up there with the best I've played with, just because what he was like to play with when I was there, and how technically gifted he was. But he gave his best every single day, and he would never kind of, if it was running pre-season, he would be laughing, and it'd be infuriating at times because you'd be going, mate, this is solid, and you're standing laughing. This is driving me mental. But that was his way of mentally just getting through it, of finding it. There's a lot worse things to be doing than pre-season running, and his mentality's kind of got him through it, and he's certainly up there with the best I've played with.
Yeah, great. And after that season, it followed 4 seasons in the Championship. Collectively, you played 84 Championship games during those 4 seasons. Did you feel like at this point it was like, you kind of probably made it now? And obviously you would feel like that, wouldn't you, after 84 Championship appearances? But thinking back to how you felt before, when it was a bit like, I need to get my head down and crack on with this and, tie this football career down after all this, you must have felt, I've done this now. Would you agree, Martin?
Well, I felt confident getting into every game at that stage, mate. And I was kind of playing well, and like clubs kind of were coming in and making bids, and it makes you feel good that as if you're finally kind of cracking on and making a career for yourself. And it was just kind of, you don't really think too much into it. You just kind of take every day as, I know it's cliche, but you take every day as it comes. And that's the environment they had there, where if you didn't train one day, you're getting it off the manager. So it's like, you can't be focused on next week or the next month or what's happening in your career and sit down and go, I'm doing all right now. It's literally, if you're not doing it that day, you're getting called out for your standards not being high enough. So you've got to kind of, I didn't really have time to think about that. But obviously when you get linked with certain things and bids come in and that, then obviously you're doing all right. But it's just, you just got to crack on it. You can't get caught up in a moment. You can't get caught up in a moment thinking I'm doing all right here. You've just got to keep striving every day to kind of get better and better. So that's kind of where it went.
Yeah, brilliant. And what were the expectations for Doncaster when they were in the Championship?
Well, to start with, mate, our first year up, we were really struggling up till Christmas.
Right, yeah.
And then we went a great run, and all it was missing was, everybody was talking how good we were playing, but we'd be losing games 1-0. And the manager would always just go back to the same things on the Monday, how we were doing so well, what we were doing so well, and keep practicing them. And it just came to stuff just clicked where our chances would then go in. We would maybe have a few chances a game, we wouldn't take any. Yeah. And then the chances would start to go in, and we went in a great run until the end of the season and stayed up comfortably. To then, it was always a club where we were striving to get up. We knew how we were playing from box to box. It was just one season probably we were missing a centre-back. The next season we were missing a striker to put the chances away. And if we'd have put them two together, I reckon we would have been really pushing most years up this playoff places, which is crazy to think with a club with Doncaster in the Championship. But that's how it was, mate. It was one thing that was missing. It was either a silly goal for a set piece from not having a strong enough kind of back line, or players that were marking weren't big enough and we got done 1-0, or we had so many chances and never took our chances. So it was one of them things. But what a great time for the club to be up there, and people would be speaking really highly about the football club, and it was a great time really to be part of it. Yeah, it's probably, to be honest, it was probably my favourite time, although playing at the other clubs and having times after that was my favourite time in football, just because the style of football we were playing and the level it was at, and how kind of, not that we were making it look easy, but it was just because we were so comfortable with each other that we'd go into the games feeling so confident and knowing what a feeling that is when you know where you're kind of other players are going to be and how they're going to play week in, week out. And we built that up over a few years, so that was good times.
Yeah, that all brings me really nicely onto that last season. And when you mentioned sort of missing a player and that kind of thing, that last season when Doncaster did get relegated, it was quite crazy, wasn't it? Because Sean O'Driscoll left, Dean Saunders came in, and Doncaster brought in El Hadjouf, Habib Bai, Pascal Chimbonda, and Frederick Piquion. And is it Harita Ilunga, who used to play for West Ham? So yeah, well, they were all quite. Well, they all come from the Premier League, like directly from the Premier League.
We had like Chris Kitland, who was obviously not the same as the other boys. I mean, there was probably 3 or 4 more that you wouldn't have heard about, but it was all French-based lads who some of them would just stroll in a day before a game with their suitcases, and they'd stay in France and come back, and that wasn't the environment.
No,
it wasn't the environment that football club had built itself on, and I was out that full season, mate. I had 2 years injured at Doncaster, where I was really struggling. I had operation after operation, and it was really that was my toughest time towards the back end of my Doncaster career. That was my toughest time in football, where I didn't really know if I was going to be able to play again. I couldn't get an injury right, and I was just kept getting put in for operations. So I missed that full season playing with them, but obviously I was about in and around them most days. And just seeing them making mistakes on a Friday and then Saturday, and then strolling back in on a Friday with their suitcases coming back to Paris, and you're thinking the rest of the boys out there grafting every day to put things right. And it was the atmosphere at the club was stinking. It was just it was such a big divide, because a couple of them were really nice guys. Ilunga that you mentioned there, really nice lad. But I mean, you're talking about Diouf and Chimbonda, they just were not.
Yeah, together. I've heard they're not good together, are they?
Oh, it was like Laurel and Hart, mate. Honestly, just anything. The two of them would buzz off each other, but everybody else would just be standing there going, "Oh man, that's not funny like at all." Their attitudes weren't right. They turn up late. They would be not training right. If things weren't going well for them, they'd just chuck it in all together. And that's just not what that club was. It's just not what the club was about at all. And the lads that were there previous and they were still there at the time, they really struggled to deal with it. Because they'd hang about, they'd just stroll in at, like, say training was starting at 10:30, they'd stroll in at like 11:15, just walk down, and everybody's waiting on the training ground for them, and it wouldn't start unless they were all there. And it was just not, it wasn't a good environment at all. And I mean, I missed that full season. It's probably the only time I'd actually have been going, I'm actually happy I'm not playing with the boys, because I would have been ripping my hair out. It would have been, because I struggle to hold it in when I see people not doing it right, and some of the boys had to go at them and it didn't go down well. It ended up with a couple of scraps and stuff.
Right,
that would have been me. So you're kind of, you're totally, the boys that were there, Coppinger included, they come in every day, done their work properly, trained hard, had high standards, but knew inevitably come a Saturday they couldn't do anything about it because one of them would let you down. By nothing about the ability, great ability, just by the lack of probably even want to be there. Didn't even want to be there. Just that kind of attitude of, oh, we're here and I don't really want to be here. Do you know, when you see people end up playing like that? So it was a hard to watch that, mate. I wasn't really part of it on the park at that stage. I was through a difficult time with me off with the injury.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, putting what you said previously about before those lads came, before that season, and what a nice environment it was. You sort of got that back, didn't you, this season after when you were in League One and you got promoted back up? And was that the season when you went up on the last day because did someone miss a penalty and you went to the other end and scored? Yeah,
that's
that
right.
Game?
Yeah, so that was that game, mate. Yeah, I was kind of in and out that season with getting operation, and I'd come back. I played about 20 odd games, and that was a tough one mentally for me, because I'm coming back and I'm not feeling great, and I'm trying to help boys out, and then I'd do well a couple of games and then I'd be feeling something different. It was a frustrating season, but it was a totally different group. It was again a great bunch of boys.
Yeah.
Totally different side. It was horrible football. It was like back to front, land of the Giants. We'd have like 2 centre backs that were like 6'7". It would be set pieces, and we ended up winning the league in that last game of the season, as you say. But come to the end of the season, and we're going up and we're getting our medals and the trophy and stuff, and I was really struggling with it mentally. I was struggling with although I had contributed and scored some goals and set a few up and whatever, I'd still knew I could have gave so much more, but my injury was hampering me to do that. So it was a great feeling seeing the boys winning, but I felt a bit of like spare part really with when it came round to the kind of the ceremony of getting the medals and the trophy, where it was you're up and your name gets called out and you're actually embarrassed thinking I could have gave so much more in this season. I could have gave so much, although I played 20 odd games, I could have gave so much more that season, but something was affecting me. But nobody sees that, you know what I mean? They see you, they don't see your struggles you go on for day to day and the injuries that you go through, and that's a tough time when you're a footballer because nobody really understands that side of it. They just see you on a park, and if you're on a park then you must be feeling good, but they don't see what's going on with you mentally and obviously physically. But that does really affect you up top. It affects you how you go back and how you're struggling with things. So that was a tough time, mate, but obviously great to get promoted again and be part of a team that won the league. But I wouldn't look back at that time really that fondly, but the previous few seasons, bar when the French boys came in, I'd look at to being probably 4 or 5, probably the best seasons, the most I've enjoyed.
Yeah. What happened the previous season? Did you leave and then come back, or because of your injury?
That was the following. So that was that summer. That was
Yeah.
that summer, mate. My contract had come up. So basically, I'd signed 4 years to start with Doncaster, and then when I'd signed 4 years, during that my last year, there was a lot of clubs kind of had put bids in. So the club then gave me another 3 years. So I'd played then that full season, but then my last 2 years at the club, I was basically injured majority of the time. So that was a tough one. So it came to the point that summer where my contract was up, but I was getting back to people were seeing that I was kind of getting fit again.
Yeah.
So it came to the point where I went away. I actually went over where did I go? Went over to New York Red Bulls actually for.
All right, yeah.
Went over there for 2 weeks, and it ends up we couldn't sort a deal out to go there. It wasn't enough to live over there. It was absolute fortunes to live there. I think I'd been on packets of rice every night, mate. Like for my dinner, they've been hard to like the for rent and stuff over there. It was crazy. So I ended up coming back, and Paul Dickoff, he wanted me to come in, so I went in and trained for a couple of weeks, and he came up to me and says, "Oh, you're looking great. Like, would you accept a month-to-month contract?" Because the chairman's obviously a bit sceptical of your injuries before, which was totally understandable. So I signed a month-to-month contract, played a few games until the Christmas time, and then the chairman, which obviously the business side of things, he wants to protect himself, and I had them 2 year out.
Yeah.
He wanted to protect himself, so it came up to Christmas time, and they kind of wanted me to continue going forward with the same type of contract. So I needed a bit of security for family, so I ended up leaving and going to Barnsley, and that was my time at Doncaster over. That's kind of how that came about, mate.
Yeah. Did fans ever say anything down in South Yorkshire with you playing for Rotherham, Donny and Barnsley, or what's the rivalries down? I don't even know what the rivalries are like down there myself, to be fair, in South Yorkshire.
Rotherham and Doncaster don't like each other, and Barnsley and Doncaster don't like each other either. So my timing was really good. My choices were good. So my first, it was weird. My first game back at Doncaster. Sorry, my first game for Barnsley. My first start for Barnsley was against Doncaster.
All right, yeah.
So I'm walking out, and some people are cheering you, and some are booing, saying you like turncoat or whatever. You're this, you're that, and families at the games, and you're just going, "Oh, come on, man! It's no my fault." Do you know what I mean? But that was a strange one. But it's just strange how things like that happen in football. Where how's your luck that your first game's against your old team that you've been at for so long? It was just it's a strange one. But I went into a struggling Barnsley team. It was just I think we were bottom of the league at the time. No, second bottom of the league. So I ended up signing with Barnsley. Played some games that season. It came up to the summertime, mate, where we got relegated because we're basically round Christmas time. We were really struggling anyway. It was pretty hard. So, and I was still trying to find my legs again, mate. If I'm being honest, from injury, I was still trying to find kind of ways of coping with not having certain things that I had previous and needing to work things in the gym, but then be all right for a Saturday. So it was. I ended up leaving Barnsley that summer, and then I ended up going up to the SPL with Ross County.
Yeah, and I've just got that down as well. So you went to Ross County and then spent one season there, came back to England, went to Shrewsbury for a couple of months and then went back to Ross County. Just how did the move come about for you to go back to Scotland, and was it something you were keen on to start off with in your first spell at Ross County?
Well, I'd never had it in my head. It in my head that I wanted to go back to Scotland, but circumstances, obviously, from my injury, it was the best option that I had on the table to go up there and get playing again and getting that week to week feeling the games again. And I went up there and we ended up. I joined the team, we were bottom of the league, and we went on a crazy. Well, I signed in November because I was trying to see if the best option was out there, and I ended up waiting to November, which was a bit of a ridiculous decision, but waited till then and went up and really enjoyed it, to be fair. But it was a team where great lads again, similar to what Doncaster was, and we went up and we went a crazy run till the end of the season and stayed up pretty comfortably. I think we won like 10 out of the last 12 or 13 games. And this was a team that were hardly winning at all. So ends up, I had a good season, to be fair, and then it ends up my kid's mum, she was from England, so she wanted to go back down in the summer. So Shrewsbury had phoned. It was my old assistant manager at Barnsley, who was the manager, Mickey Mellon. Went down, really liked Mickey, but something happened back home. So I only was there for like pre-season, the first 5 games. I played the first 5 games. And then before the window had closed, something had happened back home. So I had to go back to Scotland. So it was a tough conversation to have with the manager, and he was really good about it. I went in and spoke to him, and he says, like, he pulled me in for a cuddle and says family first and whatever you need. And he was willing to give me time off to go and sort it, but I said that it was kind of a long-term thing. So I ended up going back to Ross County, mate. And I kind of had a few options in the SPL to go back to Scotland, but I really liked kind of working with the manager, and I liked the lads that were there, so I went back up, and I'm glad I did, because probably bringing on to your next thing that we ended up winning the cup that season, which was great.
Yeah, so sorry to hear about obviously the reasoning with that as well, Martin. Sorry about that, mate.
No problem,
and obviously, so you went back to Ross County and you won the Scottish League Cup,
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. Did you know in the quarterfinals when you played in Inverness that you played against Danny Williams?
Do you know what we spoke about? We were looking on the bus on YouTube for Danny's little head jump about, because he looks about 12. Like when you look back at the pictures, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, he looks so different. So he came on I think Danny came on as a sub. I think we seen him on the bus one a few weeks ago. So Danny came, no, but I had no idea at the time, mate, until we were looking a few weeks ago. Danny's a great boy, to be fair. I got on really well with Danny. I saw up pop Danny's head and towards the end of that game, and I was like, "Yeah, there, mate." So he's like having a wee laugh about it. So no, I had no idea until a few weeks ago, mate. In the quarters, I played against Danny.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Then obviously in the semi-finals, played Celtic at Hampden Park, scored as well. But firstly, just with that, how did it feel like scoring against Celtic? Obviously, club you support, and a penalty as well. What was going through your mind when you stepped up for that? Was it in front of Celtic fans or in front of Ross County fans? Was it? Yeah,
Celtic fans. I think my dad was in the background trying to put me off. I think probably with my family trying to jump behind the goal to put me off. But no, it was a strange one. It took so long for the penalty as well because the lad that gets sent off, Effie Ambrose, gets sent off for Celtic. He was last man. Brought our little striker down, so he gets sent off, and he was taking forever to get off the park. And then they made a sub. So he took forever to go off. Then they made a sub, which seemed to take. All in all, I think it took about 5 minutes. So this full time, I've got the ball in my hand. Just come on, like let's get this out of the way. Do you know what I mean? How many times you get all the things you get told? Don't change your mind. Don't change your. I think I changed my mind about 12 times in that 5 minutes. Then I ended up the last minute. I'm going right, definitely going there. So stepped up. And it was really strange running away because. If it was Rangers, I would have been really giving it some. But with Celtic, I just kept running, mate. I wasn't actually celebrating. I just kept running without doing anything.
Just let the other lad celebrate. Just let the other lad celebrate what's
my dad would have battered me if I celebrated. So it was a strange feeling, but a great feeling. And we ended up going on to win the game 3-1, which was obviously a great result. And we got to the final, and it was great memories, and all the boys came back. My dad's got a pub in Airdrie. They all came back to the pub, and it was a great experience, and these things kind of live with you for the rest of your life now. Do you know when things like that happen? So it was brilliant.
Yeah. And how was it like just in the league when you played at Celtic Park for you? How was that like? Do you know when you used to play against Celtic away?
Yeah, well. A bit different. To start with, when I went up, it was a manager called Ronnie Delia that was the Celtic manager. And you could have a go at Celtic and get a result off them because they had the best players in the league, but he maybe never set them up to as good as they could have been, really. Yeah. To then Brendan Rodgers come in and you can get nowhere near empty. It was like total night and day where they don't put the ball at risk. And you feel as if you need to just keep going, but you're getting nowhere near MD, but you just got to keep going and something might happen. So the difference between the Celtic teams when I first signed to then a couple of years later was crazy, really. It was Brendan Rodgers took them a whole new level, really. So going to Celtic Park at that stage was excuse me, mate.
Sorry,
it was different.
Yeah.
It was different.
And how was obviously the final against Hibernian? How was the build up to all of that? And did you have because I always see when teams get to cup finals, you always have those photo shoots and stuff like that. Don't you before the match? How was the massive build up to that game, and how was the game itself?
It was all that. It was all photo shoots and loads of interviews and all the rest. I mean, up in Scotland, it's different. Although maybe playing the Championship for a few years, you're so much more in the limelight in Scotland, where it's the one sport that everybody follows, really, and it's one newspaper that talks about obviously they want to talk about the top league. So it's so much more in the spotlight up there, where your interviews it's constant interviews and constant maybe things on the telly, and it was quite a big build up, and I was going to play against, actually, the Hibs manager at the time was one of my ex-teammates at Sunderland, Alan Stubbs.
All right.
So that was a bit. So they tried to actually create a little bit of beef in the paper about me and him when I was saying about. He supposedly said before the game that we basically had no chance against Celtic because Celtic will beat every day and all the rest of it. And they had made up that I'd said something about, like, well, what do you think of that kind of Stubbsy? Like, but it wasn't me that said it. It was just like an article. So they're trying to make a little bit of beat. So we ended up having a couple of texts beforehand, and it was all kind of a bit of crack where. So ends up, we went and played the game, mate, and it was boiling day. It was a lovely day, and the sun was out and full house near enough, mate. Hibs are a big club, and it was a great experience. The game, I'll be honest, it wasn't a great football game. There was nothing in it, but we managed to sneak the win 2-1 in the last minute. We scored a goal, which I think if the game had went into extra time, I think we'd put that much into the build-up and everything that the boys were on their feet a wee bit. So I'm delighted that the boys scored in the last minute, because I think if it went further, I think they might have got the better of us, looking back at the game now, the way the game was flowing. So it was a brilliant experience, and as I said, it'll stand me. It'll be with me for the rest of my life, that experience. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and see, later on went on to play for, well, you had another season at Ross County after that, and then played for Partick Thistle and Dundee. Then we'll just sort of skip over those two if we can, just so I'm not keeping you for too long, and we'll get to Halifax after. We've not even got to Halifax yet, have we?
Yeah, no, not got to the good stuff.
I know, it's going on Halifax's YouTube channel as well. Might be going on my YouTube channel. But no, yeah, so Woodsy, where were I on that?
Halifax.
Wait, I was going to say something there. Oh yeah, you year out from after Dundee, and obviously you had that year out, and then. So what was that like? Sort of having that year out after Dundee and then joining Halifax.
Well, it wasn't planned. That's for sure, mate. It wasn't as if I was going on holiday for a year. I was training every day, and I ended up going to Doncaster again. Would you believe?
All right, yeah.
Came back to Doncaster again, so I was maybe getting a third gig at Donny. Went in and trained for kind of 3 months there, 2-3 months, and was playing behind closed door games. And it came to the point where the manager, he wanted to do something, but the chairman said that unless someone gets injured, obviously I was over my injuries by now, years and years I'd played. And by that time, he'd said that unless one of the two that were playing got injured, I couldn't sign, because he was happy with just a young lad. It was obviously, they wouldn't want to do anything. It's kind of run pretty tight, Doncaster, where nowadays where unless they need to spend money, they wouldn't want to. So it came to the point where I was training for 2-3 months thinking, this would be perfect. Boys are down here. My boys, that is, and it'd be perfect, really. So ends up hanging in there for 2 or 3 months, and mate, I would still be there in the now training, waiting in one of these boys get injured. It was just the most robust bunch of boys ever, and they were great lads. So it's not as if you could go and give them a bit in training or anything. Do you know what I mean? Smash them, but no, I would never do that anyway, mate. I'm only messing, but it was.
There you go. It's all right.
So no, that's where it brought up to me, and then I went in. It came to the point where it was coming up to lockdown, and that was basically a few months that it went past, and I hadn't had a club. So I started speaking to a few clubs, and I contacted the manager, and we ended up having a good discussion, and met up with them that summer, and we took it for there, and I decided that that's what I was going to do, and I'm happy I did.
Yeah, and how have you felt the season's gone so far? How have you felt the season's gone so far at Halifax?
It's been good. I mean, it's been difficult in a way that we've had so many little knocks along the way where I feel as if given any kind of crack at it at all, we'd be right up there in the league with certainly our injuries to our strikers. And I mean, you look at certain games where all we were needing was a goal. And I mean, certainly if you talk about Heidi being out for such a long period of time has certainly affected it, and we've not really been able to replace him when he's not been out. Some boys have come in and done great, but others maybe not so well. So Heidi's been a big loss for us in the sense of just maybe creating chances in games and not taking them. So I think we could have been given any kind of bit of luck with injury-wise. I think from box to box, we could have taken chances in certain games. I feel as if we could have been right up there, going off performance level with most weeks. That, I mean, it's not been perfect by any means, but it's certainly, I think, given a wee bit of luck, as I said, I think we could have been right up there. So I think it's gone really well. Having said all the injuries that we've had and stuff, and the things we've had to deal with the corona, and I had long COVID, as you probably know yourself as well. There's been certain things that a lot of boys have had to deal with behind closed doors that, given any kind of bit of luck the manager had, that feels as if we could have been right up there. But we're still in a great position, and we need to finish this off now and hopefully cement ourselves in the places and just see where it takes us. Yeah,
brilliant. And I'll end on the fans' questions. But before I get onto that, just one last question from me. Sorry, it's not really a question. I just want to know your opinion on it. So, if you score another goal this season, you will have equalled the most goals you've scored in a season for a club. Is that something you're looking to do?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you score another one,
I think I could have scored more goals, more over my career, to be honest. But I've always kind of prided myself on setting people up, and that's something that I'd like to continue doing. And I mean, numbers yourselves is by the way. So these days, it's all about I want to get promoted again. Do you know what I mean? I don't care if I don't score another goal, but if we're playing well as a team and we're winning, I don't care if I score another goal in the next 3 seasons, wherever I may be. You know, I don't care. So, but personal goals you've got to set, I think, and I would like to. I mean, I'd like to try and reach double figures by the time the season's done. I think I could have took a few more chances when they've come away this season. So continue to work hard on that, and hopefully can help the team by scoring a few more goals. And so that's definitely something that I want to do, mate.
Yeah, brilliant. And I'll just end on the fans' questions. Just got a few here for you. So we've got one from FCHT Mark D on Twitter. He asks, best player you've played against, and with, obviously, I think you said with it was James Coppinger, but still your answer for that one, isn't it? As in playing with, So best player you played against.
James is probably amongst the group at that Doncaster set up with Richie Wellens was really good, Billy Sharp really good, John Oster, I don't know if you heard him, really good. There was a lot of players were very similar. Brian Stock was very good as well. He's their Weymouth manager. There's a lot of boys at Doncaster set up that I could pick out to be really, really good footballers. But James, just to be still doing it at 40, he's certainly got to be right up there. I mean, if you named our boys in my previous, Julio Arca was incredible. And then I wouldn't say that I've played with boys at Leeds, mate, because I've only trained with the first team when they had the big ones where it was like Rio and Viduka and Fowler. And I just trained with them, so they can't say that I've played with them, you know what I mean? So, but played against, wow. I mean, my debut for Sunderland, my first game in the league, was at Anfield, and that was Gerrard and Alonso, mate. So I mean, when you know you're in trouble when you're going against midfield with them two, it's hard times. So I would say probably one of them's would be up there, really.
Edgar Davids as well. I think I saw a picture when I was.
I think
picture of you just sort of hitting it on your left boot, and Edgar Davids is just behind you. So played against Tottenham.
That's right.
So what did Tottenham have at the time? They have some big players.
The midfield. I always kind of remember who you're playing against, but I was up front. They had Keenan, Defoe, and then it was the midfield three was Carrick, Davids, and Genus.
Oh right.
So that was my first start, but my first appearance was against Liverpool, and I mean, the career they boys have had, they've certainly got to be up there with. And it was actually, I'm talking about long term, the best player I played against. I used to always play against the boy at Swansea. There was a guy called Gomez at Swansea, left-footed midfield. He ended up going to Blackburn at one stage. He was incredible back in the day, and because you play against him a few times, you really see how special he was. And there was our boy there as well called Ferry Boulder, who was really, really special as well. So I would say though, you can't get away from them two big boys. I mean, how you got to get near them? You're not just not going there. You mate is 19-year-old chasing shadows.
Next question is from Charlie Grant. He asks, what's your favourite game so far you've played for Halifax?
I would say probably going off the first half performance in the club it was against, I would say probably Notts County away, because it's obviously a nice setup, and we went there and I thought we were really, really good first half. Weymouth on the telly, I felt as if we were really good as well. And but I would say I probably between them two games, probably Weymouth on the telly and Notts County, because I feel as if in two different halves we had to defend the full second half, and but the first half performance I felt as if it was really good.
Yeah, sounds brilliant. And just the last question then, Woodsy, it's from Positively Sherman, and they ask, how does the standard of football in the National League compare to the levels you played in Scotland?
In the SPL, I mean, that's a tough one, mate, because there's basically three levels in the SPL. I see it as you've got your Celtic Rangers that are way above MD, and then you've got your Hearts, Hibs, Aberdeen, teams that are really good. So they teams could, I mean, Celtic Rangers would be Premier League teams. I mean, the clubs are really good. Then you've got Hearts, Hibs, Aberdeen, who it's a difficult one again, because I mean, I don't know where you'd place them in the Football League as well. And then you've got clubs down the bottom like your Hamiltons and your maybe not so much St Mirren this season, but when I was up there, St Mirren, Hamiltons, and there's absolutely nothing to say that the teams would come down here and win our league. So I mean, you've got clubs like that where certainly we would go and we would give them a right good game. So could we compete against certain teams down the bottom of the SPL? I think so anyway, because I think we've got a really good, honest group of players there that are switched on tactically now. So it's a hard one to gauge, mate. But it's been good. There's some good players, mate, at this level, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. It's just consistency now with everybody, even with us. Consistency, that's the main thing that makes these kind of teams be successful long term. So if we be more consistent, then hopefully it'll take us into the Football League, mate, because that's the aim for everybody at the club, really. Yeah, that sounds brilliant. I think that's a perfect way to end as well. I think I did say I'll keep you for an hour. I think it's just gone over an hour. I think I've done well there, to be fair, because I thought we were going to go for longer. But no, honestly, Martin, really appreciate your time, mate. Really do. And anytime, mate.
Got a game tomorrow, so obviously best of luck with that against Sutton. So yeah, but I won't keep you for any longer, mate.
No, good to speak to you, mate.
Yeah, you too, Martin, mate. Really appreciate it. You take care. See you later.
Cheers, mate. Bye-bye.
Bye.